Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Every Day is Friday. Before we dive in, make sure you remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Let's get into it. Today's guest is someone who has turned something small into something big. You may know him as Narcs, the guy that's reminding people to put their shopping carts back where they belong. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, Agent Sebastian here at your service. And it is weird when you put it like that, that it is the tiniest little thing, just returning your shopping cart. Um, and it really has become so much more than that. And I take no credit for like having the premonition to see that, but it's something that when I started doing it, I noticed there was something there, and then the more I've just done it, it's appealed so many or unraveled so many layers.
Yeah, you have over 1 million people watching you on Instagram, and they're supporting your cause. Like, there's a lot of people backing you on this. And for the listeners who may not be familiar with your line of work yet, can you give us a quick rundown of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so very simply, what I do is ask people to put their shopping carts in the cart return. That's it. Now, there's different, there's a little more than that in that that's how it started, is I just said, hey, I was talking to a friend and said, hey, why don't people do this? And that's kind of my thing, is I'm not just an asker or an observer. I'm kind of get my hands into, and my fingers into the pie, as it were. And so I just went out one day, and much like I do now, although not with the vest and the glasses and the magnets and all that stuff, I asked, hey, why didn't you do that? And politely, and they got nasty with me immediately. They're screaming, deflecting, threats of violence, all the stuff you see in cart narcs today was without the whole persona and get up. So from there, that's when I was like, oh, that's kind of the spark of things. Like, oh, there's something else here than just carts. And then I kind of layered on, well, what kind of person would be a cart narc? What would you even call a person who does this? Oh, cart narc would be funny. And then the whole, costumes and magnets kind of went from there.
Yeah, what made you want to start Narcs?
Well, it was just that, the observation that, hey, it's really easy to take your cart back, yet some people choose not to. And you can assume, and I have proven many times, that, wow, that's just lazy and inconsiderate. And I by no means am the first person to have made this observation. It's funny because as I've done this, people keep sending me things. You can go look under like tweets from 15 years ago where people have said the same thing I've said. There's even like an old Snoopy or Peanuts cartoon where the little bird Woodstock doesn't take his cart back, and Snoopy's like, oh boy, one of them. Not exactly funny, just an observation. But that was from like the 90s, I believe. So the observation has been around for a long time, and I think the universal, sort of dissatisfaction or disgust at it has been around for a long time. So I just had that and just decided to do something with it.
Now, looking back, I mean, how did your early chapters of your journey evolve into what it is today with cart narcs and shopping carts taking them back?
Well, the earliest ones was, again, just me hanging around, just T-shirt and whatever. Hey, and then people yell and scream and have, and I think the most interesting thing about it was the reasons, or well, excuses, I should say, were so varied and ridiculous. So I've heard everything now at this point for the most part, but at first I was like, oh, well, wait a minute. What? Oh, it's hot outside. Yeah, I guess it's hot outside, but won't it be hot outside for the next person who pulls into your spot and has to move your cart for you? So, or, they pay people to work here. Well, yeah, I mean, I had that job when I was a kid too, but why do they put this cart return right here if they don't want you to use it? So, there's a thousand little things that people have, and those things are not specific to carts. That's the kind of, and so hearing those, and I just developed all these, I try to be as sarcastic as possible because I want them to feel kind of silly for even using that excuse. But that sort of mentality is not just for carts. It's for everything in life. It is anytime that you don't want to do something that you should do, anybody can justify it now, but it just lacks any and all credibility and any and all logic when you examine it just for a moment. So that's kind of the progression for me, has been hearing these things, dealing with these things, and kind of coming up with hopefully more new and creative ways to respond to them.
Yeah, you've helped out in so many different ways. You've helped people from stop littering, from leaving their shopping carts out, for damaging other cars. I mean, how did people react to your first videos?
Well, the people in the videos didn't like it because they don't like being highlighted for being lazy and inconsiderate. But the people who watched it were like, "Oh yes, finally somebody is doing something, about what I and many others have had as a pet peeve for years." Um, and so I think that's why it's become as popular to the extent that it has, is that they're like, "Oh, I wish I could do that," or especially because things get violent sometimes. I don't engage in the violence. I don't cause the violence. I try to de-escalate any violence. But people know that people know just in everyday life that when you call people out on obviously wrong things, some people are still bullies as adults. And the thing with bullies as kids is you can only do so much damage. Kid on kid violence is you could lose a baby tooth or something, or but adult violence can be very serious. And people don't want to deal with that. Luckily, I'm here to just to sacrifice myself for such a thing. So yeah, the people were very response-wise. The observers were very positive. There were more at first people who sided with the lazy bones, as I call them, but it's through my examination and kind of dismantling of all their excuses. You still see those excuses pop up in comment sections from now and then. But the people who watch the videos are so used to seeing that garbage kind of logic that they immediately shut them down.
How long have you been doing this for?
It's coming up right around 7 years off and on. I didn't really start its own channel until like 2020 is when it kind of became its own thing. I was doing it maybe once a month, just kind of in my spare time. And then right before all the shutdown stuff is when I kind of launched its own dedicated, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc. channels. And so really five-ish years plus, maybe you could call it.
Now, has your mission changed since the first time you picked up the camera and started filming people not taking back their shopping carts?
Well, it has definitely expanded a little bit. So things like littering, which is so tough. I would love to do a dedicated littering, crackdown, but it is so tough to catch because, because there are a few videos, maybe one or two a year, doing cart narcs where I'll catch someone in the act, just coincidentally, tossing something out of their car or into into the cart, which isn't as bad, but still, let's say the car, for instance, because it typically happens right before someone leaves, let's say, a parking lot, and they're just like, yoink, and they're out. So, and you have no warning about it. Like with a cart, you can say, oh, here they come from the store. There they are with a cart. Okay. Are they putting it back or not? Okay. Either talk to them or not. But it's so tough to do with littering. I've caught it, not caught it, but I'm sure a lot of people have seen it like on the highway or whatever, where you see the little plastic wrapper, coming out the window. You're like, but you're moving, you're at 45, 50 miles an hour. You're like, I can't stop and get it, blah, 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 blah. So I would love to find a way. I probably would involve drones and like camera setups to do a littering thing. But for right now, I just do it when I happen to catch it. And then bad parkers too. People have often said, well, you're in parking lots, you should do like a bad parking narcs. And I do have little magnets to say like I park like a duty head or whatever. But again, that's when people there's all kinds of Facebook groups and Instagram feeds for people who are bad parkers, but it's not as common as people think. It's because, look, I'm in parking lots when I do this, so I'm looking at everything, and it's maybe one bad parker per lot, maybe. It's like egregiously over the line. So yeah, again, that, and then you got to sit there and wait. So maybe it's an employee and they aren't coming out for 5 hours, So again, it's easier to spot, but harder to, to catch. Although occasionally, there was one in LA where the guy was parked up front in like the driving lane, but he was lazy. He wanted to go to the bathroom. Technically it's a fire lane. You're not allowed to stop there. And he threatened to beat me up. So the parking and the littering are two things that when shoplifting, technically, I witnessed one shoplifter in Portland. I wasn't even patrol. It was nighttime, and I was just happening to be going to the Target up there, and this group of women come barreling out of the store, followed by security, with 2 full carts full of just loose stuff, and they were throwing it in their truck. And so I like ran over because they tossed a cart on the ground, and so I'm there as a cart narc, but I was kind of helping with that. But it's those three things I'd love to assist with because those are all quality of life. Those are all. Well, the parking isn't a crime necessarily, but the shoplifting and the littering are. But they're those things that are so often just not enforced, and so it'd be fun, especially with the littering, to do something. But I don't have the. If someone wants to send us a suggestion how to do litter narcs where you can actually catch people in the act, I'd love to hear it.
Now, when you're catching people in the act and you put that magnet on their car, what does the magnet say?
Well, the original one says I don't return my shopping cart like a jerk, and it was like bumper sticker sized. It's funny because I when I first sent that off to the magnet to like the custom magnet whatever place to get printed, it was early on. We're talking about how like things you kind of build and develop things as you do them more. And I had put down, I don't return my shopping cart like an a-hole, but I'd spelled it all out. And I got a call from the magnet people like, hey, we can't print that. Which some can, some can't. They just decided they didn't want to. And I said, oh, like a jerk is cool because and it makes more sense because the cart narcs are very polite and don't cuss as whenever possible. So it made more sense. So it was kind of like, oh, that was an inadvertent help. But now I've got bigger ones or ones that are shaped like Frisbees or throwing stars or baby on board sign that say lazy bones on board sign. I've got some magnets that say like, there's a newest one that says it's shaped like a stopwatch and it says, in the time you spent arguing, you could have returned 15 carts or whatever. So anytime there's like an argument or anytime I hear an argument or have an idea, he's like, oh, I'll print 5 magnets that say this or whatever and use them just for fun. That's kind of the progression of things, keeping things fun and interesting, at least for myself.
Now, where do you notice that people really put their shopping carts when you catch them?
Where they put them?
Yeah, where's the most average? Like in like handicap parking like lanes or like on the curb?
Probably the most average is it's probably a tie between on the curb or sliding them between two cars. They're either splitting the spot or if the cart's at the end of the spot. Like a lot of people, they'll either back into a spot or for whatever reason they're sliding or they're using their side door, so they've slid the cart in between the cars. And once the cart's in between the cars, I'm not taking it back out. Might as well stay there. Now, so that's one. And the other thing, and if they're on the other side, if they're out toward the edge of their trunk or whatever, they'll just pop it up on a curb or just nestle it next to the curb are probably the two most common. But yeah, the one that's kind of somewhat controversial sometimes is people who are either in or near the disabled spots will use either another disabled spot, which is inexcusable, or they'll use the little blue walkway around the disabled spots because it's open spot. Get rid of it. And the reason that's probably the biggest place I see it for folks in those areas. And the reason that's controversial is people will say, well, if you have a handicap placard, it's a get out of jail free card. And I say, well, not really, because two reasons. Number one, I take it in consideration. I certainly do. It's part of the every case is an individual basis. But number two, a lot of people get those either for a long past injury or it's for a friend or a relative. Or they're just being overprescribed because I pointed out sometimes, but mostly it's the comments. I'll point out, boy, that person sure didn't look handicapped because they were threatening to kill you and they were chasing you around and or shoving the cart at you or whatever. So that's why I say that the handicap spot is it's a big place to dump carts, but it's also not a get out of jail free card for those reasons.
Yeah, what kind of damage can a shopping cart cause?
Well, the most extreme case, is death. But it's funny if you watch like there was the TV show The Good Place. It was on NBC with Ted Danson and that blonde lady. What's her name? I'll tell you in a second. But her whole reason she died was she got hit by Kristen Bell got hit by a loose row of shopping carts. Now I've not heard that ever in real life, but the worst one I've heard that someone emailed me was a lady. She was driving on a regular like sort of state highway that was downhill from a Walmart or whatever, and someone had left a cart and and totaled her car because it got just perfect, terrible timing, got wrapped up underneath. But the most common damage is going to be, door dings. It's a couple $100, either to pull it out, maybe a little paint refresh. And it's just at that point where it's right below where you wouldn't call your insurance because your deductible is going to be probably even more than what you're paying for that little ding repair, or right around the same damage. So it doesn't show up on a lot of insurance claims, although I still get those. I get insurance adjusters, sending me messages too. So it's that couple $100 range is really where it really hurts people. But I find that the damage isn't even the biggest thing I talk about. It is the inconvenience. It is blocking walkways or making it so, like, if you put your cart in the spot next to you or between the cars next to you, yeah, you can get in your car, but the person who wants to then load their groceries has to go around or can't even get to their car because of your cart, or can't open their passenger door, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, walkways where people with other carts or strollers or handicap, people needing those areas. That's the one I've kind of gravitated more toward, even though the physical damage one is the one that I think is more real for people because it's a dollar value.
Yeah, and you've seen people have good and bad reactions. I want to dive into a little bit of both of them. I mean, what's been like some of the funniest reactions you ever got on someone?
Well, the ones I like the most are the ones that are not violent. And I know I know people enjoy the sort of adrenaline of a real life cat and mouse. But the ones that I think are the most funny and interesting are the ones where they talk to me for the longest, where they have really just deep and odd excuses or logic. There was a guy in North Hollywood in LA where and I didn't, or I kind of figured it out later on, but at least initially, I didn't realize he's a sovereign citizen, and they're known for their police and courtroom dramas because they think they found a loophole in like the Constitution where they don't have to get car registrations, driver's licenses. They are not subject to the courts to a certain degree. And he started screaming at me about third-degree assault and trespass upon a chattel, I think, or something. All these legal terms that he'd read on the internet, but he wasn't applying properly. And all these other, to me, that's the most fun is when they have bat crazy excuses about and reasoning and logic. There was a guy in Vegas who I didn't even bust. He just saw me doing what I do, and I explained it to him. And he went down the rabbit hole of like, Jesus, you need to be spending your time talking about Jesus. And so I said, well, Jesus would return his card. We don't know what Jesus, blah, 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 blah. So those long, ridiculous conversations to me are much more fun than the I'm going to kill you and shoot you sort of ones.
Yeah, on the flip side, I can see people getting angry all the time. I've seen you almost get pepper sprayed. I mean, I bet you have. I mean, can you dive into some of those stories?
Well, it's fun. It's interesting because people talk about that, and they, especially like the wannabe badasses online. I was like, oh, he won't show the one where he gets his teeth knocked in, or blah blah blah, or they'll make up scenarios like, oh, Cart Narcs has been arrested 5 times, or I saw he got pepper sprayed, blah blah blah. Never happened, and the reason is, it's way easier to not get into an actual fight than people understand, because you see, especially now the football season's coming around. Every week, and we've already seen them, you're going to have videos in the stands of dumb fans duking it out. And as long as you're not within arm's reach of another person, you're not going to get punched. As long as you're not within pepper spray of reach of another person, which, quite frankly, is only a few feet. Once you start moving and the wind, they're not going to hit you. Bullets are a different issue. But even then, if you're moving away, you're not in a confined, tight area. Very hard to hit a moving target for most amateurs. And that's why I've only been struck, actually physically struck by a fist one time, and it's a time that I allowed it to happen intentionally because it was up in Oregon, Aloha, Oregon. I believe they have a lot of Hawaiians up there. And this guy and I had been going back a couple times. And it was funny because I love this part where he had driven outside of the parking lot. It was a residential area right there. Taken a magnet and tossed it in somebody's mailbox. just not even so I would see it. I can't threw it in a mailbox instead of littering it, which I guess that's half a way there. And he gets out of his car and comes running at me. And he's an older, slower man. And normally I would have like just backed off and he would have given up. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to let him give it a shot this one time, because he's got his fist up above his head. Like, it's the most telegraphed thing. You know what's coming. And that's another thing that like martial arts people will tell you about street fights. You know what's always coming? The big haymaker. That's always the big right hand or left, but almost always the right hand that's coming. So if you block that, you're fine. Again, I'm not encouraging getting into street fights. I don't. It's stupid. People get paralyzed that way. But and worse. But he's this big fist coming, and I just did this little like, and so he goes boink, and I tell him like, man, you got to stop telegraphing your punches so badly. And he didn't throw a second punch. He was just like, I turned around. So that's the only time that physical violence has ever been really imposed upon me, outside of the one lady who hit me with her drink, that was okay. I saw that one again. I saw it coming. I was happy to, for comedy's sake, let that occur. But yeah, you don't. It's super easy not to get in fights. Is the moral of the story.
Do you have a background in self-defense?
It's funny. Not until I started this. It was like, yeah, because I was actually at Thanksgiving with my family, and I got like a second cousin. Oh God, it was right around 2019 or so, and he had done like Krav Maga for a bunch of years. And for folks that don't know, Krav Maga it's basically military style practical self-defense. So it's no rules essentially. So it's like it's not how you're gonna kickbox or jujitsu and how they have rules. It's here's what punches look like when they coming at your face. Here's how to block them. Here's how to reply to them. Here's how to get away as fast as possible. Here's the first thing they teach you is here's how to kick someone in the balls. It's like it's survival only, and it's survive the attack and get out of there. It is not like boxing or whatever, where it's which I love and I do that too, but that's about technique and style and rules. Krav Maga is more about you're on the streets, someone starts choking you, how do you get away, sort of thing. So I've done that. I've done, like I said, boxing, kickboxing, wrestling, etc. Because, like you said, even if you do run away or dodge or whatever, there's going to be a time at some point where you might have to get somebody off you, and it's good to know how.
Yeah, because you are quick on your feet. Did you ever get threatened to get ran over or anything like that?
Oh, I get threatened to be run over all the time. That's very common. I'm gonna hit you with my car. I'm gonna run your ass over. All that stuff happens consistently. But that's really easy to avoid because, number one, there's other cars around. Cars can't typically drive through cars, and cars can only typically go in one of two directions and turn a little bit. So, I'm not going to run away out into the middle of things. You'll notice in my videos, the time that I'm in front of or behind a car is very brief. I'm passing by, and something, and those sort of things. So, yeah, the threat has been made, which, by the way, is in some cases a felony. But people think, oh, I can just threaten people. I had yesterday a guy, and I posted the video yesterday. A guy threatened to shoot, or he said, in so many words, you better watch out, you'll get shot. Which that's still a threat, even though you're not clever by coding your language, and that's still either a misdemeanor or a felony in some cases. But people think they can just throw that out there because they don't. But much like cart narcs, because they don't get checked on it. People leave their carts out because they don't get checked on it, and that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah, how does your friends and family feel about you being cart narc?
Yeah, the friends are cool with it. They like I said, they think it's totally consistent with my personality. However, I didn't tell my family, and it was a very odd story about how they found out. My mom she was on like a road trip somewhere and was doing something where she was like getting either a new SIM card or a new phone, or something was getting updated on her phone. And we have a very odd last name, or very, very different last name. And for whatever reason, and she loves talking to people. It was the bane of my childhood. I was like, oh, because every trip to any store was an extra 15 minutes because she's, oh, blah, 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 blah. And apparently she just got into it with that. And for whatever reason, it was either a Google search or I don't know, something about our last name. And the guy's like, oh, I know that guy. That's the cart narc. And she's like, what? And then I got a call the next day, like, what is, because she knows I do stuff like this, but she didn't know it was like a thing. But that being said, she completely is on board with it. because she's big. She's not lazy herself, and so this is the kind of thing that she was. I can't give her credit for coming up with it, pointing it out as we were kids, but everybody's on board with it.
Wow, that's amazing. And what's your daily habit to help people, have your mission keep going strong with cart narcs?
Well, yeah, because I get messages, people saying, "Oh, hey, how can I support? Can you give me a Venmo or something?" And at least for the time being, I don't want cart narcs to be something people pay for. And I always tell those people, just take your cart back. But when it comes to like checking people, tell the people in your life. You got parents, brothers and sisters, friends and family. Let them know that it's not okay. Make it socially. I'm going to use the quotes, painful. Make it socially painful for them to do things that they shouldn't be doing. And I think that's kind of how we got to the point where people do leave their carts out. Because I don't remember, and I'm obviously much younger, but when I was a kid, this being as big of an issue. And I looked at like grocery store parking lot pictures from the 50s and 60s and 70s. And number one, there weren't carts everywhere like there are today. But number two, there weren't even really, like, cart returns didn't even become a real thing until like the 80s and 90s. People just took the cart back to the front of the store because that's where they got it. And they think, oh, well, this is where I got this from. I'll take it back where it belongs. And the only way that falls down, in my estimation, is your friends and your families and people in your life start letting it slide, and you let them let it slide. If parents, number one, are the biggest authorities in most people's lives, but later on in life, you can be that person. And I hear it from people out on the street. Like a lady pulled up with her daughter the other day and said, "Oh, my daughter will never let me leave my cart out because she watches your videos." I'm like, perfect. That's it. That's what I'm looking for. That's it. That's it right there. And then just take that advice and apply it to everything else in life, and the world will be cleaner and nicer. And people say, "Well, you can't do it." And I say, "Yes, you can. Look at Japan. Go to Japan. I've shot a cart narc video in Japan. It's just not tolerated." And I was just talking to a lady from Sweden yesterday, and she just said, "Yeah, it wouldn't be tolerated. Like, I would get crucified by my family if they saw me do this. It was." It's doable, people, and it's all cultural. It's not a physical impossibility.
Yeah, with that being said, what do you think in your videos you're teaching people beyond just putting their carts back?
Well, I think the thing I've kind of found, sort of as a secondary effect that I'm doing intentionally, but I didn't necessarily have this as a conscious idea, was conflict resolution. And not every disagreement needs to turn into a screaming match and a shouting match. People these days, you see it everywhere. And maybe it's always been around, but it definitely kind of escalated, I think, pandemic time. There were people who didn't like certain things. I'm not making comment on any of that stuff either way, but I seem to notice it more. Now, we see things more because everyone has a camera in their pocket all the time nowadays. But I think the cart narc shows that you can have a civil disagreement about something. Heck, someone could even start to go nuclear, but you don't have to. And even if they are being a maniac and a madman or a mad woman, you don't have to. You can control how you react. It's I think a very not subtle, but a very prominent thing in my videos that people can take and use it anywhere is, oh wait, how am I reacting? Do I have to do it this way? No.
Yeah, you have a perfect balance between funny and also sending a serious message behind your cart narcs.
Well, yeah, I try to be. I am sarcastic about it because I can only take so much credit, because a lot of the humor in a cart narc video is the slapstick of it. It's Looney Tunes. It is Elmer Fudd and Daffy Duck flipping out, while they going nuts, doing silly things. Adults acting like spoiled children. But then again, I do layer in analogies and name calling. That's very mild.
I like the noises you make when you go into it.
Right. The goofiness, which adds to the cartoon nature of things. Yeah, I guess the thing people compare me to is like a Ned Flanders or a SpongeBob type of just like nice, polite, sweet, little silly, and that's all it takes.
I mean, what do you say to people who think it's not like a big deal to leave their carts out?
Well, I would agree. That's the whole point. It's not a big deal also to take it back. And do you want to live in do you want to live in an area that has carts everywhere, or do you want to live in a clean area? Well, again, if people were given that choice, without their own action being involved, people would always, oh yeah, I'd love to pull into a space that was not full of that I didn't have to worry about loose carts or parking around a cart or getting out to move a cart. I would love that. But would it involve, and same thing with, again, littering, anything where you're cleaning up after yourself like you're supposed to. Um, so that's my message to them is, like you want this to be the way, the nice clean way, and it's not a big deal for you to do your part about it. So why aren't you?
I love it when you walked into the store. I mean, you did it. You walked into the store. I mean, you can walk your cart back.
Well, that's one of the more insidious excuses, and it has to do with people have been trained certain people have been trained to find ways not to do things, and they know that health matters, their health issues are unassailable to most people, not to me. I make observations. But to most people, they know that any kind of health excuses, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, oh, yeah, you're okay. Oh, sure, no problem. But because that's just happened yesterday, some guy, he had dumped his cart in the middle of the lot because it had locked up because he was walking off the lot, which, people, they'll walk the cart as far as it'll go. They'll walk it back to their home or apartment if they can, but a lot of them have safety locks on them. So he just dumped it in the middle of the spot. And I was walking up right behind him. I said, hey, man, that's in the way of the driving lane. He's like, oh, but it's locked up. Well, yeah, because you were going to take it off the lot if it didn't lock up. Oh, well, yeah, my leg hurts. Oh, you mean the leg you're walking on right now? Because I kept following him. People think, oh, I'm just going to leave. That's my persistence is part of the charm, I guess, of cart narcs. Oh, you mean the leg you're walking that's making forward motions right now? The leg that got you here on by itself, but now that oh, okay, so you're lying. And so that's the same thing you're talking about is, well, you walked, oh, I got a bad knee or bad hip, blah, blah, blah. And if I see that, and I see that I've helped people with canes move their carts, blah, 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 if they truly needed it. But when I see you walking around just fine, I know you're lying. And it's the worst kind of lie. It's very scummy because you're pretending and you're inventing a degree of disability that you don't have, that other people might have. And it's the whole boy who cried wolf. Well, now I wonder if the next person's lying about their disability because you are.
Yeah, I mean, looking back in your whole journey, I mean, what's been the biggest lesson you've learned?
That's a good question. The biggest lesson, it is, well, I think it is the social nature of the peer pressure nature of humanity, because it works in both ways. We hear it all the time, like, oh, they left their cart out and I can too, or I'll come upon 3 or 4 of them clustered together because one person did it. But it works the pendulum swings both ways. And now people will argue, well, that's where, bullying and bad traits can go that way. Of course, you have to be conscious and thoughtful about what you are pressuring or encouraging other people to do socially. If it's if you're just saying, hey, dork, I'm going to smack you on the head because I don't like you because you're wearing glasses, that's different than, hey, you should clean up after yourself. But we are a pack mentality, group social mentality type of creature. And I think that's the biggest thing that cart narcs has taught me is how you can leverage that for good and for bad. But again, how you have to do so responsibly and thoughtfully.
Now, you travel to other countries. Can you dive a little bit deeper into that? How is the United States different?
Well, the thing, and this is messages I get daily, comments I see daily, is that we, except for the grocery chain Aldi here, which is a German chain that has showed up in the States in the past few decades, we don't use the rental system for our carts. Where in almost all of Europe, not everywhere, because I've done cart narking in Spain and in England, Um, but they also use more coins than we do. You put like a £1 or €1 coin in, and it unlocks a little chain from the cart, drops away, and then when you click the chain back in, you get your coin back, and da di da. So even if you don't return your cart, some kid's going to want to get a free pound or free euro, and oh, well, and blah blah blah. If you go to any Aldi lot, and almost all of those cards are self-returned or quickly returned by others because there's the money incentive. In the U.S., it's only our largest coin is a quarter, of course, so it's not as worthwhile. I just posted a video on Instagram, Sunday here, where a lady tells me, she says it to me. She goes, you need to do something like that Aldi company does. I'm like, so you're admitting for a quarter you take your car back? She's like, yeah. So that's the biggest difference. But like when I was in Japan at Costco, they have a couple Costco's in Japan. They don't have the chain system there. It was just, again, it was so culturally ingrained that you pick up after yourself. Litter and disorder is intolerable, that there was no need for that. So it was, I think that's the biggest thing that travel has made me realize is, yes, you can engineer your way out of some of these problems with like the coin system. But like when I've done cart narking in England, same type of excuses, same sort of things. They have Costco's in England also, and a couple other of their grocery stores don't use the coin system, so that's where I go. But yeah, when I was in Spain, the guy gave me the same thing, like, oh, they pay, and I wasn't officially in uniform. I was just asking a guy, like, oh, they pay people to do this, and I was like, well, yeah, and I don't know enough Spanish to really dig down into it, but that's the same sort of stuff. Same, people's mentalities and excuses work mostly in the same way.
Now, how does it make you feel when your community is also posting Cartnark? They're tagging you in all their posts and they're catching people.
Well, that's nice for the most part, because most of that is like, oh, here's a picture of a cart that I saw left out in an egregious spot, or here's a video of me returning my cart, and that's great. There have been a handful of like one-off copycats. Nobody's ever dedicated a specific channel to this. But like a handful of like YouTuber guys have done it as like a little fun thing. Or that Mark Rober guy did it. He made like a self-driving cart with like a little RC motor that was pretty funny for a show he did for like some Discovery Channel or something, which was and I appreciate all that. The TV show 911 did like a parody of me last year, like a parody, like literally they called it Cart Cop, but then they slipped up at times and said Cart Narcs, which whatever. It is a trademarked phrase, but I'm not too upset right now. So that's cool for the most part. Like I get messages every day for people asking, oh, hey, I live in wherever, Connecticut, and I see you aren't here that often. Can I be a cart narc? And I tell them this, I can't ask people to do this. Number one, from a liability standpoint, because if you do get hit or someone else or you don't have the calm demeanor I do and fight back against somebody, that's not, number one, it's bad in general, but number two, huge liability for me. So that's, that's why I say, just be vigilant, certainly observe and report, but yeah, don't actively get involved.
Now, looking back, would you have changed anything differently from your beginning?
Well, the only thing I would change differently is it's a weird inside baseball thing. Not with the execution of cart narcs so much, because I don't think I made any giant mistakes in that. Most of it has just been kind of learning by doing. But there's it's a weird thing because I worked for a company here in LA that technically the IP, intellectual property, would be potentially theirs. Now they don't control it at all. They've been very hands off, I should say. But I would have done it independently while not working for them. It's a very inside, but like most contracts have that for this kind of stuff, and so I would have done it separate of them so I could control it more. Again, not that they're trying to control it, but just so that thought isn't even in my head. But a very small thing, just.
So the majority of your content is in the West Coast of the United States, correct?
Yeah, it's because I'm based in LA, so I try to get to Boston, New York, Atlanta, Florida as often as I can. But yeah, just based on where I am most of the year, it's LA, Las Vegas, San Diego, San Francisco.
Now, what city has been the worst for you being a cart narc?
Well, the ones that I think are the worst offenders are the desert cities. So that's Las Vegas, Albuquerque, Phoenix, Reno, and I don't know. There's just something about all that open brown space and just getting baked by the sun that I don't know if it makes. I don't know if it attracts like more dirtbaggy people. There's a reason I guess that Breaking Bad was set in Albuquerque. As far as meth go, I mean meth's everywhere, but it's just there's that sort of like dried out methy attitude, and like just quickness to violence that I see and anger in those cities that I don't see. Like especially in I'd say the best part of the country that I've noticed is kind of like western Pennsylvania down through northern Georgia, like the kind of Appalachian, like the north part of the southern, central Ohio. They're not totally clean, but like even in Pittsburgh and Nashville, I go around and I just see a lot less of it in that little band, a couple hundred miles there.
It seems like the heat makes people a little bit more mad.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I hate those. I don't like the desert. I don't like the lack of trees and grass. Personally, I would never want to live in one of those places. But maybe it just gets some kind of ornery and fried.
I'm from Michigan, so if you ever come out to Michigan, let me know. And I would love to see Narc out here. I mean, we have lots of chains out here, Kroger's, Myers, and Costco as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. I was there a couple of months ago in the greater Detroit area, like Taylor. We did ones, but yeah, I try to get up there at least once a year. If I can. So I definitely try to get back.
That's sweet. And this is the Friday mindset part of the show. I want to dig into your journey, your mindset, and the moments that have shaped you. What has been the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The one that really sticks with me was it wasn't so much a quotable line. It was I remember I was younger when I started high school, and I was going to a school that I hadn't been to before, playing football for them, and I was smaller than everybody, and I was kind of like, and I practiced with everybody, but I was kind of like, I'm kind of getting like weirded out about it. I was like 13 or whatever, and I was trying to tell the head coach this, and he was like, "Look, man, you just got to get out there and do it. You're gonna, just do it. You won't. It's not gonna be as bad as you think it is. Just get out there and start." And I think that's the and I did it, obviously, or else I wouldn't be telling the story, I suppose. And I think that's a really good like just start. There's you're not going to get better at anything by thinking about doing it or by thinking about reasons why you can't do it. Dip your toe in. Just it's a version of the journey of 1,000 miles. Starts with a first step, whatever that is. Just give it a shot. Do it. Go ahead and and it's also never too late to start. People later, oh, I'm too old to do blah 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 or do this and this. It's so easy to get all the education and you need and all the training you need from anywhere these days. So there's really no excuse not to start almost anything.
That is a great takeaway. I resonate with you on that one. Just if you want to start a podcast, just press record. That's the method I went with.
Yeah, yeah. And you're not going to be good at everything. In fact, you're going to be bad at almost everything you do initially. However, if you are conscientious about, and look and listen to, that's the other thing. I know certain people who, they'll, especially in the arts or in like performing arts, they'll do it and they'll be terrible. And the reason they stay terrible is because they're not honest and they're not getting honest feedback and they're not listening to the right people. They're just kind of head down. You can become a great, you could practice boxing or shooting free throws or whatever for 10,000 hours. But if you aren't but if they say that if you're grooving bad habits, you're going to get good at being bad. If you're not getting real and searching out real, sometimes harsh or criticism doesn't feel good, but you have to listen to it and then seek that out.
That's a great takeaway as well because you have to have a target to shoot at and shoot for the stars many times, and you'll figure it out on the way. All your failures will be your successes along the journey.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah.
And it's all about the journey and not the destination, but the personal development throughout the journey. Remember that, everyone that's listening. And what's one truth about life that you wish more people understood?
It's easy to return your shopping cart. I mean, yeah, things are easier than they seem. I think that's that, but that's you can make anything into a mountain, but most stuff is molehills.
Now, what kind of legacy do you want to leave?
Well, that's interesting. I think about that every once in a while. Like of the 100 billion people that have existed, we know about almost none of them. And especially past 2,000 years ago, we know about five or six. Julius Caesar and like Cleopatra and Hammurabi, and that's about it. So there's billions of people who come and gone. So I think you can't expect to be MLK or Napoleon or to bad and good if you however you like it. So you can only expect to affect those around you, and to me that's the most important thing is be good to those around you, because that's really all that's going to matter.
I'm really fascinated in your whole journey and everything. So, what's the biggest driving factor for success in your career with Cart Narcs?
Well, consistency and persistence. It is. If I'd done this 5 or 10 times once and oh yeah, no, but it's become such a thing because there's such a big body of work now, and because of repetition and doing things again and again and doing things hopefully in a way that I'm doing them better every time as well. So I think that's consistency and persistence will make up for a lot of stuff that you lack in other cases.
And the show is called Every Day is Friday, and Friday has a special energy, whether it's freedom, excitement, or just feeling of accomplishment after a long week. I want to hear from you. What does Friday mean to you?
Well, I'm gonna be a bit. I'm gonna be perhaps a bit counter messaged on that one because I've had office jobs. I get it. It is school, and especially early in your career, that's an exciting thing to be out on a Friday. However, at this point, I don't care as much because it's like you can do fun things anytime you want to, essentially. And so I've kind of moved out of or to the next, to me, the next sort of mindset where every day can be Friday, and you can do that. You can do whatever you want anytime. Essentially, is my kind of mantra on that.
Every day is Friday, and this is
There
your
you go.
chance to leave the listeners with something powerful. Is there anything else you want to share?
Yeah, return your cards. That's it. That's it. Yeah, I mean that's the easy thing. Yeah, return your cards, but also like help others do that as well. Be you can be a little. We don't grow without pain, as they say. So if it makes them feel a little uncomfortable to be called out for it, like for your friends and family, go ahead and do it. It'll make them better in the long run.
Be courteous and kind always, and all your information will be in the description down below. I want to make sure that people know where to find you. Where can people follow and support your work?
Yeah, Card Narcs on all platforms except for TikTok. TikTok's weird. They don't necessarily like Card Narcs, but they do like. There's a bunch of like fan accounts on there. So YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, cardnarcs.com, all the Twitter, etc. are the main places.
I know the listeners got a lot of great value out of this. It's been an awesome conversation. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for sharing your stories and experiences.
No, I'm happy to talk about cards anytime.
To everyone listening, stay tuned for more amazing stories on Every Day is Friday. If you enjoyed this, make sure you follow, share, and keep that Every Day is Friday mindset going. Stay inspired and make every day feel like Friday. Until next time, everybody.